Something.
No.
Welcome to the undrafted, uncensored cast of Pod. Hosted by Nick Archuleta. Mosted by Collin Zanker.
Nope.
And last but certainly
Nope, not today.
least,
That part's true, though.
Joseph
I'm least.
Goodwin.
Welcome everyone into the Undrafted Uncensored, where there's only two of us, and I moved the mouse. I did that to myself today.
Dick's pulling a Collin.
I pulled a Collin. We miss him so much. I had to play the intro almost twice.
Yep.
Where at least we know if we're going to throw somebody out of a game, we know who we're throwing out. Did you see that video?
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, there's been some quality MLB umpiring as of late. I'm pretty sure it was the Tigers game where the umpire just said, I don't care who it is, just somebody on the bench, they're gone. I'm like,
What?
You can't do that. You should probably know who you're throwing out.
Otherwise, no one should be thrown out.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know who's saying it, don't go checking people.
What?
And then,
so what happened? Somebody was chiding.
They were barking about balls and strikes, and the umpire warned them. Got back behind the dish. I think it was the bench coach was just walking down, trying to get the guys going or something, clapping, and said nothing about the strike zone or anything.
Yeah.
And home plate umpire turned and just pointed and ejected. And the manager comes out. He's like, "Well, who was it? We didn't say anything. We weren't doing anything." He's like, "I don't know. Somebody on the bench." Well, who was it? Who are you throwing out? I don't know. Somebody over there.
Pick one.
Pick somebody.
Yeah. At that point,
somebody?
Not necessarily the burden of proof, but the decision has to be on you as the umpire. At that point, accept that you're probably throwing out the wrong guy, and that you're doing it to send a message, not because this particular person did anything wrong at all. And that's move on. You can't just somebody that's like the giving him the business. You can't you can't do that. That's not a rule. It's like Cuba Gooding Jr. in Rat Race, when he screws up the coin toss and gives everyone a penalty for questioning him.
Well, and then I think it was Thursday.
The argument for robot umps has never been stronger.
Oh, dude, they're doing a great job of asking for it. And then Thursday, I was watching the O's and Sox for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Orioles were winning. I'm like, White Sox suck. Orioles are winning. This game's over.
Yeah.
So I switched the channel, and I came back upstairs later that night to watch Quick Pitch before I went to bed. And they were talking about this controversial play at the end. I'm like, what? So what happened was the White Sox, managed to get the tying run onto second base. And one of their players hits a pop-up, so there's only one out.
Yeah.
So it pop up on the infield. Shortstop's watching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The runner at second is watching the ball, starts to go back towards second base because they're calling an infield fly.
Yeah.
So everybody that play baseball knows infield fly, go back to the base, and then see what they do from there. There was no force because there was nobody at first. Runners at second and third, so he didn't have to run.
Yeah.
And so
this is the guy on second, right?
Second, yeah. So they are going back. Well, one's going back, one's going forward. And they just managed to bump. So as the shortstop's coming up and the runner's going back, they're both watching the ball. They just kind of bump a little bit. Mm-hmm. Doesn't affect the play, doesn't affect his ability to make the play, get under the baseball, gets under it, catches it.
Beautiful.
And him, just like everybody else, thought it was one out. So he's getting ready to check it around, looking around, because the umpires are like, ball game. And he's like, what's going on?
What do you mean ball game? Yeah.
So because they bumped, the umpire said it was interference and it was a double play and ended the game on that.
That's awesome.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Dude, some people and we talk a lot about how you want to have the human element. You want to be able to have a little bit of that nuance. You don't want it to just be, this is the line and that's it, because it takes a lot of the skill out of the game for other people too.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, man. you can't just like, and I understand the argument too. Like you go to a robot umpire and then like, certain catchers that are really good at framing pitches, that's not going to be valuable anymore because it won't matter because it won't be possible. You won't be able to, like my buddy Dante was talking about it, explaining this concept to me literally an hour ago that I'd never heard, but you kind of kick dirt on the back line so you can kind of walk backwards a little bit further and give yourself a little bit of an extra edge.
Yep.
And like, these are things that are, important to be able to do. And like the fact that that it's almost going to be necessary to have a robot that can't distinguish these things because the people's judgment has been so bad. And a lot of that is due to the criticism on the refs. It's like the refs almost feel like they have to be more defensive and be like, no, I was right. Where in reality, none of us really want you to be right. We want you to recognize when you're wrong and get the call right. Nobody cares what you thought it was originally.
It is not often that the officials should be known by name unless they're like really good. In NHL, everybody knows Wes McCauley. In the NFL, everybody knew Ed Hockley.
Mm-hmm.
Major League Baseball.
I was a big Cleet Blakeman guy.
Cleet Blakeman. Very good call.
Just a good name. His name is Cleet.
Yeah, it is actually.
Like, come on.
And Major League Baseball, the difference is all the umpires because they're bad.
Yeah, same in basketball.
Diaz.
Yeah. Tony Brothers.
Wrong sport, but I mean
Scott Foster.
NBA, everybody knows the NBA officials because they're bad.
Yeah.
Angel Hernandez in Major League Baseball. I mean,
nobody knows the guy's name who got the call wrong in the Saints and Rams. But I know that he called the Super Bowl the next year, was the head ref.
Yeah.
So that's obviously, NFL has a different thing where they protect their referees to a fault. But you see that defensiveness there too.
Yeah.
You see it, everywhere. And I'm sure, baseball, same thing. Well, that guy said something I didn't appreciate. Just throw somebody out,
Yeah.
Or that looked like it. And does baseball have any kind of review process where if they make a call, can they go back and look at it and be like, actually, no, that wasn't interference. But we had to go look at it. Do they have any kind of review process like that?
There's the review on the field. They can challenge certain plays.
Okay.
And I think maybe after the game, if they do something, because every umpire has to do an after game report. And I'm sure it's the same way in every sport, especially if they kick somebody out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm sure that at some point they meet with Joe Torre and review whatever they wrote about in their after game report. So-and-so was an asshole. This part of the field needs to be repaired. They have inept grounds crew, whatever they say.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they do, and I'm sure they meet with Joe Torre after a game or after a series, but I would assume after a game. But I'm sure definitely after they make a report of having to kick somebody out or something.
Yeah, that's sad to see. But, at the end of the day, it's also one of 162 games.
Yeah.
So but that's kind of what's had them get away with this kind of shit in every sport. It's just one game. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's just
can't let the refs ruin the game for you.
Yeah, it's just one AFC championship.
There's still 70 more minutes to play.
Yeah, everything's fine. It's some of those just giving. Remember the Chiefs got a couple pass interference calls that helped them continue drives, and like it always just feels bad, even if it looked kind of like a foul. That's why it's been nice to see the NBA refs have stopped calling as many fouls in these playoffs, because even in the past years, they would still call it relatively the same as the regular season. There'd still be some leeway for sure, but it wasn't like now where it feels like regular season was pretty ticky-tack and how it used to be kind of pre-bubble is almost how I think about it.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden it's back to like old school basketball where you can bump somebody and, you can do some stuff. And that's been really nice to see. The NBA guys have almost, like, I wouldn't say figured it out, but they've gotten better. We didn't have anything to say about Tony Brothers specifically this year.
No.
Doesn't mean it won't happen. And it can happen again. And then we're forgiven for everything else, or Scott Foster, same thing.
Yeah.
With certain players. But it's just sad to see, man. But You don't want the refs to ruin the game for you. You don't want to see that. And I think I'm not necessarily going to want robot umps, but I think every sport needs to have a much better review process and like at least a sky judge. I don't know how useful it would be and how different it would be in each, sport. And basketball has pretty much incorporated that with having the review process and the monitors and all of that. Like the NFL just needs to have a guy like that. And baseball, I think, could use a lot of that too. Someone that can almost override the umpire because they can see the whole thing.
Yeah, well, there's certain plays you can. Obviously, you can't challenge the strike zone, but safe out or catch, no catch, things like that. There's certain things you can challenge in the MLB, and it goes to.
And why can't you challenge the strike zone? I feel like that should be a thing.
You're gonna be doing it every single pitch, and as much as they are for speeding up the game. They have a challenge process in AAA right now, where you can, if either the catcher or the hitter can challenge the pitch, depending on what it is, but they only have a limited number to do.
And that's how you should be. Yeah, you shouldn't have, because no sport has unlimited challenges.
Yeah.
Football has 2, and then you can lose one sometimes, or you can get one back at the second half. That's right. If you only use one or something like that, I forget exactly how it works. Basketball has more, but still a limited amount of challenges, and you lose a timeout regardless because you're stopping the time. So it's kind of a way to limit them itself. So I figured if you had how many do they have in the minors? I'm thinking like 3, 4 challenges.
Yeah.
Because if you have 9 innings, you don't want a challenge per inning. You kind of want less than half. Maybe even less than that, but like you should be able to challenge that at some point, because that way you have a robot ump that is checking the strike zone, but is not the one actually making the calls. You only refer to the robot ump during some kind of challenge or when it's unclear or whatever. The umpire's word is law, except for some challengeable situations. But I hate the idea of making certain plays challengeable and certain plays not. Like, give them 3 or 4 challenges and let them fucking challenge anything. Get the call right, period. And again, I think the NBA has the best system for that. But there was even a call last night where the ball was out on Jaden McDaniels, but he was fouled by Kyrie Irving. But because the call on the floor was not a foul, they couldn't just retroactively add a foul because they don't want to be just adding fouls onto everything. But it's as long as the spirit of the game is upheld and it's not just refs going in and adding foul. Like if Scott Foster adds a foul on Chris Paul every single time he has an opportunity to do so, we know there's a problem.
Yeah.
And, various refs have various problems with other people too. Or if it's just guys that are known to be complainers, like Boogie Cousins used to get targeted all the time. If every time they go back in a review and Draymond Green comes up with a foul, maybe we don't trust that system. But like, you should be able to add it when it's very clear and you can see this guy was fouled. The right call on the floor should be a foul. In the NFL, that's harder to do because there's holding on every play.
Yeah.
And there's the officiating in the NFL is probably the most inconsistent of every sport.
So in Major League,
challenge has got to be easier.
Sorry, AAA.
That's it. Yeah.
Each team gets 3 unsuccessful challenges per game. Successful challenges do not count towards the total. All challenges must be made within 2 seconds of the call. So you have 2 seconds as a hitter to decide if you want to challenge this, but you also have to understand that you get 3 wrong, you lose your challenges for the rest of the game. So I'm sure there's still a balance there. Certain players are allowed to probably do it more than others.
I think 2 seconds seems too little. I think 5.
No, I think 2 seconds is perfect. Well, you can look at the zone, you can look up at your skipper and get a nod and
something.
That.
Yeah, I feel like 2 seconds. You can for sure, and probably most of the time, but just what difference does 3 seconds really make for something like that? Again, just get the call right. The game has been accelerated in a great way, and people mostly have actually enjoyed it. Obviously, a lot of old heads hated it at first, and it's tough to get used to. And they're going to have to keep tweaking it a little bit to kind of get it just right, get that Goldilocks. But I feel like you got to have a little bit of something. Like, make it not feel like such an alien game.
Yeah.
Make it feel like there's, stuff that like every other sport has, challenges. We don't have to play it like it's the 1800s still.
Speaking of challenges, the Nuggets have a lot of challenges coming up against them now that they've been eliminated.
How so?
For those of you that don't know, the Nuggets were eliminated from the playoffs by the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are trailing right now 2-0 in that series.
Yeah, 2-0.
Dallas is up 2-0 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to confirm that I did see that last night.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's some questions because obviously Malone pushed this team as hard as he could because they wanted a repeat. He wanted a repeat. The players wanted a repeat.
And that was the way it had to go.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's, they keep saying that was a lot of basketball to play, a short amount of time to recover. Obviously, Jamal was hurting. I don't know if anybody will actually say anything about it. Joker was wearing out. I mean, AG kind of disappeared the last 3 games. Christian Brown had 5 points off the bench in that last game, and nobody else on the bench scored.
No, the bench has not been a scoring unit the whole time, and that's been a big issue.
And they need a backup big. I know you got AG and Joker out there, but if you're going to keep Zeke Naji, let's start getting that dude some minutes or cut ties because you need a backup big.
I can't believe they kept it. I think because he got hurt, he couldn't get traded. At the trade deadline, he wasn't healthy, so they couldn't move him. But when they signed him to an extension of like $5.5, $6.5 something million, like that to me was the tradable bench piece that they had. Like they could move him for a backup big or a backup guard. I would be fine with either one. The big would have been great for sure because you end up with the non-Jokic minutes. Trying to put Gordon at the 5 is great, but you don't have that guy to play the 4 anymore.
No.
Like Christian Brown, like Peyton Watson should have been that guy, but Peyton Watson couldn't score. And it becomes a liability. They don't have to cover you. Your offense becomes stagnant. Like Malone even straight up said, he can't put Brown and Watson on the floor at the same time. And Brown was just the more well-rounded player. He was putting up the energy, even though Watson has the blocking ability. As Collin will say, Peyton fucking Swatson.
Yeah.
But he couldn't score, and he couldn't be that bigger interior defender that they kind of needed. So they need something. You almost don't even care whether it's a 5 or a 4. You just need somebody to come in because you put Gordon at the 5 for the non-Jokic minutes. That's fine. But you got to have a 4. You got to have a Jeff Green, somebody like that. Like we were talking about this the whole time. I've been worried about the depth on the bench all year. At the trade deadline, that was what I wanted, is them to move for a guy like, and even though I like Reggie Jackson, you kind of needed more of a scoring presence because Reggie pairs great with a scorer, but you didn't have that scorer. So Reggie, the facilitator who takes these ridiculous, stupid shots that go in sometimes. You kind of like seeing that to an extent when he's not trying to be the top scorer off of your bench. Like it was never going to happen. And, guys like Malcolm Brogdon got traded, guys that could have come in and scored or played a role, just, either didn't get traded or did to other teams. And I don't know if there was a great backup big you could have brought in for Zeke Naji or Zeke and Reggie or something along those lines. That might not have been there.
Yeah.
So that's probably why they maybe didn't do that. But yeah, you have to figure out that bench because without the bench, your starters get way too overworked. And we saw that once there was a couple injuries, Reggie and Jamal having injuries to Nurse like that really killed you because not having anybody to come play that backup, Collin Gillespie also being out, not having somebody that could just get some minutes that Malone would trust. Because half of it is a guy that can play, and half of it is who does Malone actually trust. Julian Strother can shoot. He made it, like I mentioned, a sweet buttery 3. It was either in our blowout or when we got blown out, when the bench got emptied and you saw him go out there. They needed something like that. When Justin Holiday is your only option for scoring off the bench, and we needed Justin Holiday.
Yeah.
Thank God we had Justin Holiday, and that feels weird to say. And now we can't even afford Justin Holiday because all we can get is veteran minimums. You might end up getting some kind of mid-level deal that you can sign somebody with after losing KCP's money. But I don't even think the loss of KCP's contract gets you that low to get a mid-level signing. Like, you're pretty much looking at vet minimums for everyone.
Yeah. Do you think KCP is gone?
Oh, guaranteed. There's no way. There's no fucking way. He makes $14.5 million.
Yeah. I figured. I mean,
yeah, it's a question worth asking for sure.
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about, but there's no way. Bruce Brown makes 22. KCP is going to make more than that. KCP is going to make 25. Or maybe he makes 22 for a longer period of time because he's 31, so he'll take that security. But no, he's gone. You're replacing KCP. And you're hoping that loss of money helps you sign a mid-level guy of some sort.
Could you move a bench guy into his spot in the rotation for familiarity? I mean, could you throw a Christian Brown in there maybe?
Yeah, that's the only guy. And you take a huge scoring hit when you do that on your offense. Like, KCP wasn't putting up that many points, but he was efficient and he was a threat. And that caused the other defenses to have to spread out a little bit and respect that KC3.
Yeah.
And without that, like, if Christian Brown can develop a shot, absolutely. Then you have basically Alex Caruso as your shooting guard. And I'm cool with that. I wish we could afford Alex Caruso. He makes $20 million also. It's like 19 and change. It's crazy. Like, I was joking with my guy Dante earlier. Like, fuck Grayson Allen for ruining the shooting guard market, getting paid, what is it, $30 million or something stupid. And it's not his fault. He's a good player. He's a really good player. He's more of a 2-3 hybrid guy because they've got Beal playing the two. But your options are Christian Brown.
Yeah.
Or maybe Strother can make a stride on defense because we know he's got the shot. Because, like, who can you bring in at that? Like, dude, there's not really like, we can't even afford Malik Beasley. Like, I would love to bring in Malik Beasley. He's out of our price range.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. Like, guys at that shooting guard position are going to be really hard to find. Like, you can potentially replace Reggie Jackson because he's gone too. His contract's up, and he's got, I believe, a team option or a player option for $5 million. He's going to make more than 5. Teams are going to want just a solid backup point guard that can do stuff for you. So, like, you're looking at guys like Chris Dunn that are injury prone and old, but could be a good facilitator and a good point guard, but he's not going to score for you. Like, can you bring back Justin Holiday? That's sad when that, like, you're looking at that as like a potential, like, they need someone to take a step, and they need maybe 2 veteran minimum contracts to work out. Like, they need, and like, Jeff Green's available. So if you can get Jeff Green for a veteran minimum, hell yeah. He's old enough that he might not be able to get much of a contract. Maybe you can pay him a little bit more. I'm not sure the max. Like, the max they could give Bruce Brown last year was $7 million. I'm not sure how much they can give maybe one player. They gave Reggie 5 or 6, and they gave Zeke an extension for 5 or 6. That's where that money went. Could they do that with one guy this year and make it Jeff Green, or make it Goga Badatse, or Badats, however you say it, a quality backup big that can facilitate and be a diet Jokic? Like, it's scoring is going to be an issue. Like, the guys that you want, like Royce O'Neal, you're not going to be able to get, who's leaving the Phoenix Suns. Brogdon, you're not going to be able to get. Like, I don't even know who's going to be available next year, but like Dante DiVincenzo played himself into a good contract.
Yeah.
Like Peyton Pritchard with Boston, they're probably not going to let him go. But like, you need a guy like that, and you're not going to find one because no one's going to let those guys go. And the guys are going to be available. It's like, yeah, I don't know, man. It's going to be really tough. And I don't think that they're willing to trade Michael Porter Jr.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the big question. And it's coming to a head where they're just going to let him walk, I feel like, because you can't pay him that same money. he makes $33 million right now. You can't afford that. Whenever his contract is up, like to extend him, you're going to extend him for KCP money, for 15, for 20. And he's probably not going to take that because he's going to be worth more than that to some other team. He'll go the Jeremy Grant route and go to Detroit and make a bunch of money. And so it's like you almost need to trade Michael Porter Jr. for the Bill Belichick approach and trade him a year early because you can capitalize. I don't know who's going to want him for that salary, so you're not going to get anything good back for him. So, like, dream scenario, try to get Mikal Bridges or try to get, like, Lauri Markkanen or somebody very good at that level who makes less than Porter. You're going to have to get, like, Markkanen makes 17, 18. Mikal Bridges makes, like, 20, 22, something like that. Like, you're not going to get Mikal Bridges and a player from Brooklyn. You're not going to get Lauri Markkanen and another player from Utah. Like, you're kind of just stuck, and you're not going to pay Porter over Gordon. It's going to come down to Porter or Gordon because you can't afford more than that. Like, it's Jamal's safe. Jokic is safe. You're going to need a max extension for Gordon. He's more, I think, important than Porter. But they're not going to trade him in the offseason for sure. I think they're too loyal, which is kind of a good thing. I like loyalty in that sense, especially because of all the issues that Porter had with his two brothers. It's just called Two Brothers. But like, they're not going to give up on a guy that just had one of the roughest years of his life. And they probably shouldn't, but for the good of the team, maybe they should. Like, because then like I said, it's going to come to a head where you just got to let him go. And like, does that end up being a, I don't know, like a really bad breakup? Or is it just going to be they pay too many guys and the bench is just ass? I don't know. I hope that you make it back here pretty soon, Nick, because I don't know. Is it me? Is it me that you're looking for? Or is it my internet or is it yours? I hope we're fine. I'm going to send a text real quick. But like, that's to assume that it's just me here. Trading Porter feels necessary and impossible at the same time. And you can make it work with guys like this, but you're going to have to get a lot out of some really cheap contracts. Like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get Royce O'Neal. You're not going to be able to get really any good shoot. Like, somebody can't even afford Malik Beasley. And I would love to bring back a guy like Beasley or a guy like Monte Morris to come off of the bench as your point guard guy, because you're not going to be able to have Reggie Jackson. Oh, hey. Yeah. So was that me or was that you?
No, that was definitely me. I was pulling up MPJ's contract. And apparently that's a sore subject for my computer because I got into whirlybird hell and it just, my thing was spinning and spinning and spinning.
Okay, and cool.
Like every once in a while I get like, I'm like, keep talking, Joe.
Like, I fucking did. Especially when you were gone. I was like, well, fuck. I mean, I'm going to assume that I'm the one still in the stream. So I'm going to keep
show.
Here we go. But yeah, like
35, 38, and 40 over the next 3 seasons.
Yeah. The crux of what I was saying, basically, that you missed, it's trading Porter feels necessary and impossible.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to dump him to Detroit for nothing. You're going to get Jaden Ivey and hopefully he works out. You're going to dump him to San Antonio and you're lucky if you get Jeremy Sohan. You probably don't. You probably get Trey Jones. And that fills out your backup point guard. Maybe you get a decent center. They might have a center. I'm not sure who they have.
Maybe that Wembanyama kid or something like that.
Yeah. So like the other guy is, probably more likely. That Wembanyama guy seems like a bust. But like, that's kind of what you're looking at because the quality starters that are available are not either they're at the wrong position. Like, you're not going to get DeJounte Murray. You're not going to get Trae Young. If you could trade Porter for DeJounte Murray, holy fucking shitballs, send. But
yeah,
that's not going to happen. Like I said, Mikal Bridges is my favorite guy that's going to be potentially on the market, more so for trades than free agency. But like, it's not going to happen. You know, Utah's not going to give up Lauri Markkanen. We don't have the draft picks. It's not going to happen. But they got to find a way to keep this team going and to build a continuous contender. Because like with the way it is now, you're going to end up with a really top heavy roster, and the same shit's going to keep happening. You're not going to be able to stay healthy. And, bench issues too. Vlatko, my guy, got hurt, which like you don't want to be relying on a guy like Vlatko, but holy shit, that would have been nice to have a guy that could shoot threes that was a little bit taller than Holiday. Because Holiday looks like a skeleton out there.
Yeah.
But hell, I would be happy to get that guy back next year because you need something along those lines. And it's going to be rough, man. If they run this relative roster set back, maybe they bring in some vet minimum guys to replace Reggie, a 2-guard that can maybe start, maybe come off the bench to replace KCP. I don't know. Like the top heaviness of the roster is really rearing its ugly head right now.
I mean, this offseason is obviously going to be a massive test for Calvin Booth. And I mean, I'm sure he's up to it, and I'm sure he'll find a way to make the right moves so that the Nuggets continue to dominate. I mean, you have the best player in the world on your team.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of building around him and finding the holes that need to be filled. And I have total faith in him being able to do it. And, it's so hard to repeat in sports anymore with championships anyway, that, we all kind of expected this. And I think even for us fans, it was kind of nice to not have to go through another championship run, because even as a fan, that's kind of exhausting.
I disagree. I will take that every time. No, I want the championship run regardless. But it's going to be tough. But also this year was one of their better chances. Like last year was their best chance and they won.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And then roster attrition happens. And then this year was their next best chance, because next year you don't have KCP. You don't have guys to replace him. And that's partially on Booth and Tim Connolly, and it's partially on Michael Malone for not developing these guys and not giving them the minutes that they need. And I don't know if this season goes that much differently if Julian Strother gets a few minutes a game.
Yeah, I don't think
and
so.
Zeke Nnaji and those guys, because the rest of the starters would be huge, and that would definitely make a difference, especially because Jamal had so many injury issues anyway. Going down the stretch. He needed to have those issues a little bit sooner, or they needed to keep him out maybe for a little bit longer so he was more ready. Because that first couple games against Minnesota the series against the Lakers was rough, and the first couple games against Minnesota was bad. Like you could have gotten away with game 1 without Jamal against the Lakers.
And Malone said it too. He, they didn't have the chance to coast into the postseason and rest guys like they did last year.
Yeah, and Jamal wasn't going to sit.
No.
He's too much of a warrior, and I'll take that at the end of the day. Like, that's a fault that I'm cool with because it galvanizes your whole team, and he's a leader. Like, when your leaders show up and play through shit, that's a big deal. They need more size, like you say, and they need someone that can score off the bench.
Yeah.
And I pray to God that guy's on the roster. Like, it's Strother or it's Vlatko or something, because they got to replace a starter now.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just say, oh, Christian Brown can take that next step off the bench. No, he has to be a starter next year. Or they have to replace KCP, which is going to be even harder. But then if you manage to do that, hell yeah. Then you have guys on the bench that can step up. It's kind of like if the Broncos found their quarterback, that accelerates everything immensely. Yeah. Otherwise, you've got a lot of issues. If Christian Brown can step up and be a good starter, hell yeah, that solves a lot of problems. Or if they can find that starter, maybe a young guy, maybe a vet, and then you can keep some of those guys on the bench, hell yeah, that's huge. But like right now, if we're getting 2024 Christian Brown as our starting 2-guard, like he's bigger than KCP, but
yeah,
I don't get that.
We'll let it play out.
Yeah.
We'll go into the Avs real quick here. The Avs also had their end of season post conference or press conference. Landeskog says he's still working. Jokingly, he told the media he's hoping to have a return sometime between mid-September and early April. And for those of you that don't know hockey,
that's a good time frame.
The NHL season.
Yeah, sometime in there. Yeah. I like
that. So, I mean, it's been 2 years now that the Avs have played without Landy, and at this point, they should be adjusted to it and be able to embrace it and start looking at moving forward. Obviously, the biggest questions were on Val. From a locker room perspective, Landeskog did the captain thing, answered the questions as a teammate and a friend, saying that they hope he gets the help he needs and he will be welcomed back into that locker room with open arms. And good. I mean, that's a team thing. You know, it's up to them to make that decision to bring him back in. If they feel like they can trust him and they can make it work out, then fine, so be it. You know, bring him in. But just know that
bring him out.
Just know that he's hurt this season 2 years or he's hurt this team 2 years in a row in the playoffs when it mattered most.
And he's too good of a player. He's too important to this team to have that uncertainty hanging over his head and the entire team's head. Like, if Val Nichushkin is playing in that series, they might beat Dallas. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to say they would because they were a much thinner team. It's a very similar situation to the Nuggets. But in hockey, you can overcome those things a lot easier. Also, when you have two of, if not the two best players in hockey, like, is Connor McDavid number 2 potentially? Maybe, but like, dude, like Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, that's insane. Like, McKinnon's going to win the MVP, I think, maybe, or have they talked
they
about
haven't
that?
Announced it yet, no.
They haven't announced the Hart Trophy yet. Okay. But he might win the NHL's equivalent of the MVP, the Hart Trophy. And he's not the best player on the team. That's Cale Makar, who's, probably the best player in hockey. And maybe this year McDavid's jumped that. He's more so the face of hockey, I would say.
Yeah.
But like, or at worst, you could say we have 2 of the top 3 if you want to put McDavid as the top, which I would argue. But and then Mikko Rantanen, like, that's top 10 right there. Like, that's massive. So that's a bigger top heavy starting lineup than the Nuggets even had, with, because Murray's not the second best player in basketball. Not even close. Mm-hmm. I love Murray, but that's not the case. And the same with Gordon. He's not top 10 like Mikko is, to go down the line with the comparisons. But like, you lose another one of those guys. You're Val Nichushkin, who's probably top 20, top 15.
Yeah.
Scoring type guy, just as a scorer. Like, that's insane. But you lose a guy like that. He had one of the longest streaks. Didn't he have a goal in every game in the playoffs against Winnipeg, including Winnipeg and the games he played against Dallas? Like, he had a goal almost every game.
He had a point, at least a point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe just a point, like an assist or something. But yeah, like, that's insane. Like, that is such high production value that you can't just replace.
Yeah.
And it's like, they can't restructure his contract and pay him a little bit less because of the consistency issue. So they could afford to maybe bring in one more guy as an oh shit, which I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to do. I think the NFL is one of the only leagues where you can actually restructure a contract to that magnitude. But like, dude, it's going to be rough. And you hope that the return of Landeskog can kind of help bridge some of that gap. But he's going to have to work his way back too. So he's not even going to be fully back, maybe even until the playoffs, because he may start working his way back halfway through regular season, or go like Jamal did and start working his way back at the beginning of the season, but do a real slow burn where, because Jamal, he came back and had a few games and he'd take a few games off and it was slow, but he got back. Or maybe Landy doesn't come back till later, but like, I don't know, man, it's similar situation. They got to make a bunch of small deals work out, and they might have to, I don't know who's going to be free agents. They might have to not be able to pay. But there's some contracts that are going to have to end up being gone, and it's rough, but I honestly feel more confident that the Avs are going to figure it out.
Well, and I don't know if I sent this to you or not. I got it from my family earlier this week.
Okay.
There's rumors about the Avs trying to make a deal with the Bruins for Linus Ullmark, so that kind of shows you where their feelings are on Georgie.
Yeah.
But one of the problems is they want the Avs to include Sammy G, and that's a tough pill to swallow. But I feel the goaltending is more important right now than a good two-way defenseman. I love Sammy. Dude's a pet, especially when he starts pesting on people. I love when Sammy just turns that pest on. But we saw it. I mean, the goaltending hurt the Avs quite a few times this year.
That's true, but I also feel like the next goaltender is kind of already on the roster. I feel like Justus Annunen can end up taking that next step next year, but they don't know. They have to see.
Yeah.
Give him a shot, and you still want to have another guy. It's too bad you can't just switch it and keep Georgie as a backup for Annunen, but that would probably hurt the mentals of
it's already happened
Georgie
to him once. It's already happened to Georgie once. That's what happened in New York.
That's different though. That's fucking Shesterkin. He's maybe the best in the league. That dude's insane, and they're still playing right now.
Yeah.
So that's.
And I was really hoping for an.
You're right though. It's happened to him before, and he didn't play terrible. But that was also two young guys competing, and Shesterkin beat him out. But like, yeah, but could he handle that happening again? Like goalies are psychos, man. So I would honestly rather shore up everything else and take a look at the goaltending, because like they could have gotten Marc-Andre Fleury if they really wanted to this year, and they would have had to have given up probably something they didn't want to, or with somebody like Sammy G.
Yeah.
And would that have been enough? Maybe not. Maybe he's too old and not going to work out. Because Georgie stood on his head for a few games, especially in that Winnipeg series. Like, without Georgie, they don't beat Winnipeg. And yeah, they definitely, let the team down to an extent. I was texting my buddy who's a big hockey guy after the Avs went down 3-0 the second time, and I was like, got him right where we want him against Dallas. Because at that point, the game was kind of free. And then the fourth goal, and I was like, oh, fuck. And then we scored two, and I was like, oh, shit, here we go. Never mind. But they tried. It was close. Yeah. And, like, it feels like they can do more with those guys, whereas basketball, it's such a team-oriented. They really need all those guys running on all cylinders, whereas the Avs can get away with only a few guys running on all cylinders because their cylinders are faster, or they have more cylinders. How does this metaphor work?
Yeah. They're much more cylindrical.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, let's go with that. That sounds like a word.
Yeah, they have a Hemi.
I don't know. I'm excited to see. We all know where the Avs holes are. They're so close. Again, they're in a window. They have to figure out what they're, how to get through that window at least one more time. I would like to see them with this crew end up with at least 3 cups.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that would be great. I mean, more than that, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't fight that at all.
Yeah.
But if we can get through 2 more cups with this crew, I think that would be a good use of everybody's talents at that point.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the best team the Avs ever had didn't win more than 2 cups.
Yeah.
And there was a while in between for sure. There's a lot of turnover between 96 and 01. I think it was 96, 95, something like that. But still, like, they only got 2 cups with Waugh, Sakic, and Forsberg and Foote. And then, they brought in Bork for the last part. But like, that was the core, was those guys. And they got 2 cups. Yeah. Yeah, Rob Blake, obviously. There's so many guys you can mention. But I feel like that was the main core, was those guys. But yeah, you throw Rob Blake in there too. But like, with this core of, I almost said Crosby. With McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, Tushkin, McCarr, and Landeskog. And then you could even throw in, if they'd kept him, Nazem Kadri.
Yeah.
And that's, hindsight's 2020. We all would have rather paid Kadri than Nichushkin, seeing everything's happened with Nichushkin.
Yeah.
But it's how it goes. Maybe Kadri doesn't last as long, gets hurt, he's older. Who knows how long his skates hold up. He'd be a guy I'd love to bring back, similar to Jeff Green. The Nuggets of just like, if we could do it, that'd be sick. I think we still have a few years out for Kadri. I think he's still under contract with Calgary for a little bit longer. But if this group could even get one more cup, that'd be phenomenal. Yeah. I almost feel like that's how it's going to go, and then they're going to have to retool to get, Makar's third cup. McKinnon might be on his way out. Landeskog will be gone. Maybe Mikko's still here, maybe not. Who knows? But I feel like it's going to have to be almost a different, style of team to get Makar another one. But fuck, who knows, man? If they could do it next year, then everything's on the table.
Yeah.
If they can get some kind of goaltending, whether it's Georgie, Annunen, some other guy, and then they could put more into the defense and into the front lines and just, depth. Depth is kind of fucking important. Obviously, the Avs won with some of the best depth that hockey's seen. With the cup in 22. But
they need a bully too. I mean, they missed Logan O'Connor. During the playoffs. I mean, you need LOC. You need a guy like LOC to get out there and just light some fires and throw some fists.
Yeah, so Josh Manson was that guy a couple years ago. He's kind of fallen off. He feels kind of big and slow when he used to feel big and scary, and a little bit slow. But that's fine. He's kind of teetering on the edge of Rudy Gobert.
Living on the edge.
Living on the edge. There's something wrong in the world today, Nick. I don't know what it is.
Oh man.
But it's gonna be a fun off season for both teams, and I feel like both are gonna.
Is that you or is that me this time?
I don't know. Let's blame me because it was you last time.
Okay.
So I saw it too. I saw a little swirler. I'm like, oh fuck.
Oh, so you got the swirly this time, because I didn't. My mouse was still normal.
Yeah.
So that time was you.
Yeah, I'll say it was me. Yeah, I was getting the CJ San Andreas. Here we go again. Shit.
Well, moving on. The Broncos had their first OTA this week,
and everyone looks great.
And everybody's amazing. They look great, and they're doing good stuff, and they're
best shape of their lives
without pads and not really being pressured, and they followed directions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. I'm not trying to be mean. You guys know I love football. It's one of my favorite sports.
Yeah, football.
But this is the stupid time of year where they're doing OTAs and things like that. And it's who wasn't there, who was there. And look how great they looked. And I'm like, I don't care right now.
Yeah, nobody cares how great. I mean, we kind of do care, though, because it hasn't been good at this point the past 2 years, because Russell Wilson never looked good in any of these situations. Because he's just not that kind of guy. So the fact that it at least looks normal is a good sign. Because we've been so below normal for too long, but we really were just that bad the past 2 years.
Yeah.
We were still mediocre and sad, but at least it was a doable mediocre and sad. Like, we'll win a couple games. Look at Vic Fangio's defense. But so you can't put too much stock in it, but it's a check mark in a box that you needed checked. Like, that's a step in the right direction. Baby steps are important. Next we're going to start trying to chew gum.
Oh, man. Just don't throw it on the field. Find a garbage can.
Yeah, exactly. But, the biggest thing I feel like from OTAs and everything, the only thing that really matters that means anything is the absence of Cortland Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only thing you can really analyze and extrapolate any kind of information from. Like, he wants a new deal, and he's probably not going to get it. I don't think they can really afford, obviously with the Russell Wilson money, they can't really afford to do anything. And if they can,
they've been kind of moving pieces around to do a decent job at least.
but they're not going to pay anybody.
No,
and they haven't paid anybody, and they're not going to extend most people. I mean, Patrick Surtain, please God, extend Patrick Surtain. Even if you have to franchise him to get the deal done halfway through the year or whatever, like they did with Von Miller. Obviously, that was a different situation because John Elway wouldn't concede anything in the Von Miller negotiation, and that was what took so long. And that was one of the reasons that the Broncos couldn't retain free agents after the Super Bowl, also because he couldn't lose a negotiation. That's not the only reason. There's a million reasons, but that's one of them. Danny Trevathan didn't stay because of that. Malik Jackson didn't stay because of that. But yeah, that's the one big thing you can actually take something away from.
Yeah.
Obviously it's terrible that Drew Sanders tore his Achilles and he's going to be out.
But the good thing is he did
season probably.
He did it early. So
sure.
he may be, they're saying the timeline, he may be back in time to start the season.
With an Achilles?
Yeah.
It must be less of a tear then, because
I was hearing they expect him to be back in time for beginning of the season.
That's crazy. All right.
He might miss preseason, but
yeah, it must be a minor tear then, because Achilles ends your season if it's bad. Obviously look at Aaron Rodgers. He's older, a lot older.
Aaron.
And it's a lot more, Aaron Rodgers. But he has to put more pressure on that muscle in particular, whereas linebacker can run more downhill. They're not dropping back. But Achilles, that's what killed Durant for a season. It was either Durant or Clay, because Clay had an ACL, but it might have been an ACL and an Achilles, or it could have been two ACLs on it was different legs. But like Achilles will end your season a lot of the time. So if it's not going to end his season, hell yeah. It must be relatively minor, and I think youth is part of it too.
Yeah.
Technology. So because at first I was like, no, I don't really care when the guy goes out for the season. I don't want him to go out for the season. Like, I would have been just as sad if Tim Patrick got hurt halfway through the year, as opposed to the first day. We were all there for it.
Yeah.
And he made some catches, I guess. I heard a funny analysis of watching OTAs, and like Tim Patrick looked surprised that the ball was there within such a tight window. I think it was Cecil that was saying it, probably in the chair next to me. But it was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like? The ball is supposed to be in these tight windows where I can actually catch them and use my Jesus hands? He didn't say Jesus hands. I like the term Jesus hands.
I like Jesus hands.
That's a Joe thing. Like, that would be great. But also, that's kind of showing how the Broncos are going to be able to maybe get along without Courtland Sutton. Dumping it off to guys like Mims, if he can take that next step and be more of a Swiss Army knife type guy, even if he's not going to be a Jesus hands type receiver. Run some routes, get open, play that kind of Mike Thomas underneath role to an extent, so that Tim Patrick can just be a possession receiver, because Tim Patrick can play that role for sure. Yeah, I don't really want him to. Or maybe you bring in the rookie from Oregon, I forget his name, that Bo Nix's guy. Maybe he takes a step.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Courtland Sutton, he's probably gone unless they extend him. He's probably gone next year because they won't be able to afford to pay a guy. But who knows? If it all works out and he's catching jump balls in the end zone like Russell Wilson throwing up prayers, then hell yeah. Everything works out great. But right now, I think that's the biggest takeaway. Because you hear a lot of talk about, like, is Javonte Williams going to lose the running back spot? I don't know. Maybe. We're not going to know until they put pads on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Riley Moss going to be the starting corner opposite Pat Surtain? I don't know. Maybe. I want to see him actually tackle someone. And also, doesn't he wear 37 like Jason Sehorn? So that makes me happy too.
I think so.
Just for that alone. And I want that hot chick that was married to Jason C. Maybe she still is, from the early 2000s. Rizzoli and Isles, that was the show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what was her name?
I was thinking that scene. Yeah, when she walks into the locker room during Agent Cody Banks.
Yeah.
And all the teenage kids are like, what the fuck?
I forgot about that. Oh, moving on.
That's what we want from Riley Moss. We want him to have a hot wife. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe play some defense.
So the Rocks went on a winning streak, and then they ran into the San Francisco Giants, which was no surprise.
Yeah.
But then they started winning again against Oakland. but their bullpen showed us who they really are again. Two
They
extra
were who
innings.
we thought they were.
Yeah, 2 extra inning games. Rockies pulled out the first one, lost the second one. Actually, no, I think all 3 games against Oakland went in extras. I might be wrong on that. Stand by, because that was
Red leader standing by.
That was frustrating.
Red Fox standing by. Big
Simply
Red
Red standing by.
Thank you. I was going to say Simply Red next. Red October standing by. How many Family Guy jokes can Joe get through before Nick finds the pitching information?
Okay, yeah, I was ready. It was 2 in a row.
Okay.
So Wednesday the Rockies pulled it out with a Rymack 2-run bomb in extras, and then they lost to the A's on Thursday in extra innings because yet again the pitching staff could not hold a quality start for the starter and lost on Thursday. However, they also managed to beat the Phillies last night in extra innings at home. I don't understand this team right now, and it's kind of funny.
I just made a meme in my head of the scene in the Two Towers when they're all going up to meet the king. And the guy's like, "Oh, we're going to need your staff, too." And he's like, "You wouldn't deprive a wizard of his walking staff." And it's like, "No, yes, we would." Like that. That's the Rockies. They got deprived of their staff.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I got so mad when they were bringing in Justin Lawrence. That dude's got an ERA that's like probably higher than I don't even know. Then
another number
that's
also high.
I had a funny comparison, and then I forgot what it was.
That's okay.
It ran away.
Shit happens.
But I mean,
just like those 2 games for the Rockies.
we know it's the Rockies. We know they're gonna have terrible pitching. The starters have actually looked relatively decent as of late over the stretch. Part of it's probably because they were pitching in California. But I don't know. There's still not. I mean, I still don't think they're as bad of a team as people are making them out to be. They are a bad team. I'm not saying they're not a bad team. What I'm saying is they have flashes and little sparks here and there that make you feel like there's potentially something there.
Sure, but who cares?
Me.
Like, they're not going to do anything. They're not like it's the only thing we can hope for is having fun while losing. And like that sounds cool, but like that's just the organization as a whole. Like, it's not going to get better. If they win more games next year, that's almost worse. You know, like maybe they can find something entertaining. You know, can they hire the Jonah Hill guy from Moneyball?
They won't.
Or is he exactly? They won't do anything that's fun or different or interesting. So we're just kind of stuck with mediocre baseball
and 8.5 games
mediocre players. And right now it's bad baseball played by mediocre players. Like if the MLB didn't require every team to have an all-star, they wouldn't have had an all-star for, I don't know, since fucking
2019.
Nolan? Was that when Nolan got traded? Was 2019? Like that would be the last guy. Maybe Trevor Story, because he had like a one good year after Nolan got traded, but like that's it. Because my guy German, he's had injuries and stuff. So I think he wasn't he actually the representative from the Rockies one year.
Yeah, I think he was one year.
That might have been deserved. Like he might have gotten in if they didn't force that. But like it just feels so sad. It's like if the Rockies are a slightly better team than the worst team in the league, what does that accomplish? You know, what's the difference?
Yeah, he was an all-star in 2021.
Okay, so that was good old German Marquez, my guy. It's Hermann, I know it is, but I only want to call him German. It's the shit.
I don't know. I was just
that's a guy I enjoy, and I like certain names and players on the Rockies, but like overall, it just feels unnecessary to really put too much analytical thought into the Rockies, because it feels like they're not putting the same analytical thought into the team.
They're not. I mean, my Twitter
that we would potentially try to do.
The fact that I don't work for the Rockies makes it easier for me to tweet out angry stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's, I'm still a fan. I'll still root for them, but.
Yeah, and that's different. Rooting for and enjoying and being a fan of a team is very different than expecting them to be good. Right, Ty?
Yeah.
This is my guy, Ty Fuji from Media School.
What's up, Ty?
As well. So, yeah, he's going to be the new Collin for this episode, even though we're done almost.
Yeah, we're pretty much done now because we can't have the victory formation today since Collin's not here.
We could. It'd be funny if we just picked games ourselves and just took the winners. And just,
you know what? We went 4 for 4 last week, Joe. We won $482 each.
I love it. Next time Collin's out, we need to do that. Just do our own victory formation.
That would be
just
funny.
Fucking go over the wins and losses and pick our own games, make them all terrible. Well, because he always does that to you with the baseball stuff.
Yeah.
So we should do that to him. Does he have teams that he hates? I don't even know. I don't care about baseball.
I don't think so. I think he's just kind of the Rockies.
This is only pick Rockies. Dude, that's it. That's what it has to be. Next time, we're going to set up the victory formation picks. It's going to be all
Rockies all week long.
And Collin's going to pick against them for every pick, and he's going to go 100%.
Probably.
Yeah, because we're going to pick for him, because that's how that works.
I love it.
Because he has to have picks. We can't have him skip a week and go that far behind. That would be unfair.
Yeah, that would be, actually. I like that. All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Next week, even if Collin's not here, we will do the victory formation.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny. It'll be terrible. I'll make like a new intro that's like worse. It's just gonna be the worst possible victory formation. However, we can ruin Collin's segment. Yeah. I mean, I ruined my own segment with Lose Bad, so I might as well ruin somebody else's. But I didn't care about whatever rules we set. I should find more. The problem is there's nothing bad happening in sports right now.
Not right now. No, this is just kind of.
There's not enough bad football. There's no bad basketball because it's all playoffs.
Yeah.
The bad baseball I'm not privy to. Like, I wouldn't know what's bad about it. Honestly, that should be the segment. Is Joe analyzing any baseball game?
I think we should. Yeah, that might be Lose Bad again.
That's perfect. Did you hear? You heard my calls of the World Series at the media school, right?
No.
Oh my God, dude, it's the fucking best. Like, I didn't know what a lot of these descriptions of pitches were because I don't watch baseball. I don't know. So I thought that there was a pitch and an out caught by somebody named Cutter.
I mean, it was the Cutter.
The out's on. Yeah, it's out caught by a Cutter, I guess. I don't know. Who's Cutter? I don't fucking know. Nobody. It's a type of pitch.
Oh, thanks everybody for tuning in today. We appreciate you. We know you probably missed Collin, but we didn't.
We didn't.
Thank you everybody at e5280sports.com for hosting us. Thank you to Michael Spill and everybody over there that continues to bring us back. I don't know why, but we have fun doing this still. Tell your moms, tell your friends, tell your mom's friends. Yeah. And like, support, love, whatever, subscribe, and whatever else I don't know how to say anymore because I forgot.
I don't know. Don't worry about it. Follow. We sign up for our Patreon. We don't have a Patreon.
Not yet. And sign up for our OnlyFans.
Yes, we'll get one of those. We'll just pretend that we do.
Yeah.
But honestly, there's enough OnlyFans out there. You can find one and convince yourself it's us.
There you go. For Joe Goodwin, I'm Nick Archuleta. This has been Undrafted Uncensored. Thank you again, everybody. Have a great weekend and happy Memorial Day.
Yeah, that too. Outro music.
I always liked this one.
It's got a nice little bass riff almost, you know?